Hello and welcome to the sermon recap for this week. This week we talked about the teaching that's both from the Old Testament and also what Jesus repeated a couple times in the New Testament, is that I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Or go and find out what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Now, of course, churches can get a reputation for trying to focus on what we have to give up and that we can't enjoy our lives. We have to sacrifice lots of things, sacrifice joy, sacrifice wealth, sacrifice all these things so that we can receive the kingdom of heaven. But the Lord's saying, what I'm interested in is mercy. How can we care for and love each other? That's the most important thing. So one of the stories talked about how Jesus and his disciples were walking through the grain fields on the Sabbath, so the day of rest, where the commandment said you're not supposed to do any work. So the disciples were walking through the grain fields and they were hungry, so they plucked grains to eat. And the Pharisees, the leaders of the church at that time, rebuked Jesus for his disciples doing this, that they were breaking the commandment. And the Lord says the most important thing, of course, is the use. Is this useful? Is this good? And of course, feeding those who are hungry is a good and useful thing to do. He gave you the example of David when he was being chased by King Saul and how for many days he hadn't eaten, and they came to the temple where there was some showbread that was set out, and they ate that showbread because the use of helping those people to feed their hunger was more important than keeping these external things that we find to be so important. And the final part of that particular story is when Jesus was in the temple on the Sabbath day, and there was someone with a withered hand. They hadn't been able to use their hand for many, many years, and the Lord asked him to reach out his hand, and his hand was made well. And the Pharisees wanted to destroy Jesus because he broke this commandment to heal someone on the Sabbath, which actually wasn't against the law. The Lord says the Sabbath was made for mankind, not mankind for the Sabbath. In other words, church and worship and all of these things, they exist to help us to learn to love and care for one another. That's the important thing. Whether or not we keep external rituals or not doesn't matter. What matters is, are we focused on mercy and kindness and love and caring? That is what the Lord asks us to go find out what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. All right, have a great week. We'll see you next time.